All right, so here we are, Healing by Design series. Hope you're here for the right class. This is about men's hormone balancing, how to increase testosterone. No, I'm just kidding. Thought I'd catch you a little bit. All right, so yeah, women's hormone balancing. I was going over my notes and I'm like, man, it was really silly for me to try to do a women's hormone balancing class in 1 hour. Because any one of these things you could talk about for such a long time. It's such a complex subject. Whereas the men's hormone balancing class, which I am going to do, I'm like, what am I even going to talk about for an hour? So it's interesting how differently men and women are made, isn't it? So anyway, let me pray. Father, thank you for this time here together. Teach us more about your amazing creation, your amazing design. Help us to understand hormones, how you set these things in motion, and you created us in such an amazing, extravagant way to have these hormones and these neurotransmitters work in our body for a specific purpose and function, and help us understand how to rebalance things when they're out of balance. And we just thank you for all that you're doing in our lives, and we just want to know you more and deeper, especially in this topic related to health in our bodies, Lord, because we're struggling, most of us are struggling with various health issues, and we really want to know you and how to correct these issues. I pray in Jesus' name, amen. All right, so hormones. Let me start with kind of a general concept, maybe to help us with some understanding of hormones. And really, this is just kind of general understanding health in the human body, because I think we still have this mindset a lot of times, and I think it's been perpetuated by our medical system for the last 100 years or more, of how we don't understand anything about the body. Things just randomly happen, and we don't know why they happen, and there is no answer to it, and there is no cure for it, but here's the best we can do. And you know this, the culture that we've created. But the concept I want to give you that maybe helps this make sense is nature. And so think about all of the living creatures in the ocean. Think about the phytoplankton. There's fish, there's dolphins, there's all these different things that God created, right? That God created and God designed. Think of all the insects that are in the world. Like, I don't understand the purpose for all these insects, but God has a purpose for all of his creation, all his design, the germs, the microbes, the parasites, the bacteria. And based on how God designed that organism is going to do what God designed it to do, right? So when a deer comes into the world, the deer is going to do what God designed a deer to do. And so with a bacteria, and so with an algae, and so with a fish. But what affects that organism from doing what God designed it to do is if something interferes with how God designed that organism to work. So a very simple example was life in the ocean is great and happy until the Exxon oil tanker comes by and spills oil into the ocean. Now all of a sudden things aren't working the way God designed that system to work. Do you see where I'm going with this? Okay, so when we talk about hormones, it's not some mysterious thing. You're not just, I just happen to have this issue or that issue. It's cause and effect. God designed you amazingly. We're fearfully and wonderfully made, as the Bible says. We're an amazing creation. And when God set into motion the creation of all things, including the creation of human beings, part of what he set into motion was hormones working the way God designed hormones to work in the body. If I'm outside and I'm in the sun, I get light in my eyes, I produce serotonin, it makes me happy. If I'm in cycle with the sun coming up and the sun going down, when the sun goes down, my body naturally produces melatonin, which tells me I'm sleepy and it's time to go to bed. When I get excited about something or a new project, I might release dopamine, which gives me drive and motivation to conquer, that task. If If I need to run away from danger, adrenaline pumps into my system so I can, this is the system God designed. And that system works until something interferes with how God designed that system to work. Does that make sense? So I just want to share that concept again, because we just feel like these things come out of the blue. They come out of nowhere. Because we don't understand the body and how God designed the body, our answer, think about it. What's our answer right now? Most people's answer. Now we're changing now, but most people's answer has been to go to some guy in a white coat, trust what he has to say, that's giving you some kind of a chemical or potion that's going to correct your hormones. And if you think about that, that's weird. Like, isn't that really weird? Isn't that a weird thing to do? Yet that's what we've accepted as normal. And so what I propose is that God designed hormones. God designed them to work a certain way. The reason they're not working is because things are interfering with God's natural creation and natural design. I've said this in health from the beginning, since I've started kind of preaching this message, is that there's only two main things, because there are deeper spiritual things, which we don't want to get into right now, but for the purpose of this class, there's two main things that are affecting the way people are designed to function by God. One is they're deficient in something God designed to have in their body. You're made of minerals, dust of the earth. We talk about that all the time. You have living organisms, living bacteria that have to be in balance in your body. You have to have amino acids and proteins. There's certain things that the body has to have to function. And we can be deficient in those things, and that can cause malfunction in the body. And then the other main thing is toxicity. And that's definitely the biggest thing we're probably dealing with when we're talking about hormone imbalances, is toxicity. Our body is filled with toxins and poisons, all these man-made chemicals and things we put into our environment, the things we put into our food supply. Our organs are getting congested and backed up and toxic, and things aren't working the way God designed them to work. So it doesn't matter if your issues, depression or PCOS, or, we're going to go through some of the different hormone imbalance issues, and I'll try to cover. I'm sometimes good at just talking vaguely about vague concepts, and because I'm kind of a big picture person. So sometimes I speak in I don't want to say generalities, but more of to give people a big picture and an understanding of their body and how it works, as opposed to like giving you all the, because everybody wants to go in and be like, well, what do I take? Just tell me what to do. Like, I don't care about that other stuff. Just give me the answer. But I think knowledge is powerful. And if we understand the big picture, that we are designed to work a certain way, and that a man-made pill or potion or petrochemical drug isn't going to heal us, isn't going to balance our hormones, isn't going to help us, then we can actually choose God for our healing, which is a whole lot of ways we can choose God for our healing. I mean, we can do it in prayer, and we can do it through nutrition, and we can do it through herbs, and we can do it through sunshine. Like, there's a lot of ways to choose God, but unfortunately our culture isn't choosing those things. We just go on about our lives until something goes wrong. Again, we'll go to a doctor, try to take a pill, and hope that everything's okay. But everything's clearly not okay. And that's why so many people are struggling with various issues. So that's a general intro about hormones and how they should work. One thing I really encourage people that we have to do today is we have to take responsibility for our own health. Now, you might not be directly responsible for your health issues, and that to some extent today is true, especially the younger generations, but really anybody who's sitting here today, even if you're 80, we're definitely not fully responsible for our health problems because of genetics, weakness in our family line. I always joke about how it was our grandparents' parents and 3-4 generations ago that starting eating cookies and ice cream and donuts and starting putting pesticides and herbicides and all these things on our crops, and not thinking it was a big deal because they were still fairly genetically strong and it didn't affect them like it's affecting our children's children. Now we've realized how we've destroyed our culture, our environment, our bodies, and our children. But So even though we're not fully responsible for what happened, we are chosen by God for your spirit. God chose you to be on this earth at this time for a purpose. And so I tell this to a lot with, I see a lot of teenagers, children and teenagers, and I'm like, yeah, you got a lot of issues. And most of it's because mom and dad, and they're usually there with their mom, and they go, thanks, mom, and they're like, you're welcome. And they kind of joke about it, but it's the reality. Like, it's a reality. Yes, we make silly choices. We don't eat right. We put weird things in our body. But this has been happening for a long time. So my point in saying all that is, even if we're only 10%, 30%, 50% responsible for our issues, we have the 100% full responsibility for choosing God to restore our bodies, to restore our health, to align back with God and His creation, and to do it for our children and our future generations, because that's what's really important here. It's not just about our health and our bodies, it's about helping to restore future generations. So I kind of joked in the beginning about the men and the women thing, but I'm like, man, what is it about women? Like, they are so interestingly created, hormonally different than men. And it's really, it's a blessing, isn't it? I mean, isn't it interesting how, like, women were designed to bring forth new life on this earth? I mean, that's the meaning of Eve. And so in that sense, you can say women are more complicated. That's probably a joke that men say, women are complicated. But hormonally, there's definitely a lot more going on with women. And so because women are designed to have children, there's definitely more going on hormonally that we have to sometimes deal with. And it's not just childbearing, it's every month there's this cycle. And if it's out of balance, you know it, right? Men are out of balance, they just don't know it. If they had a monthly cycle for some reason, we'd have a lot of whiny men on this earth. Okay, but they're not designed that way. Okay, but women are. And I look at it maybe a little differently. I always try to look at the glass half full, so to speak, but I really feel like women, because they have a monthly cycle, it can actually be an advantage to know where you're at with your health. Because we're going to talk about a woman's cycle. And a woman's cycle is supposed to be pretty spot on. It's supposed to be roughly every 28 days. It shouldn't be painful. You shouldn't have all the crazy symptoms that women have. And if there are things going on, if there are imbalances, it's kind of a way for you to gauge where you're at with your health. Same thing with pregnancy. I've said many times, and I've seen this very true with our children, with my wife, is that pregnancy will reveal your weaknesses. I say that about fasting too. Fasting will reveal people's weaknesses and where they're at in their body and where they're at with their health. And I think a woman's cycle can be used, again, when you get that back in line, that says something about your health. And many women have struggled for years and years and years with their cycle. So bad to the point where they're going to doctors and getting these drugs and these pills that we talked about that aren't an answer. So there's clearly an epidemic of hormone issues in our culture. Think of PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Endometriosis is a really nasty one. Infertility. And I always think about Deuteronomy, where God very clearly said, from the beginning, be fruitful and multiply. And God gave us a list of curses and blessings. And it said, if you follow me in my ways, you will be fruitful in the womb. And if not, you won't be. And we see what's happening out there. We see family after family after family struggling with fertility. It's not normal. You can look at biblical examples. You can look at, Sarah, and she was barren and had a child in God's timing when she was, 90-something? But that's not the norm, okay? The norm is to be fruitful and multiply. The norm is that a woman is designed to have children. And so it's not okay to me to have all these fertility issues when it's contrary to God's heart and design not to bring forth children. So we have hot flashes and menopause and weight issues, the irregular cycles, hair loss, depression, fatigue, insomnia, the heavy bleeding in the cycles, nausea and morning sickness around pregnancy, preeclampsia, postpartum depression, gestational diabetes. And there's just a whole lot of issues going on. And just like I said in the beginning, God set forth in motion when he spoke the world into existence these things to work a certain way. And they only stop working that way if something interferes with God's design. And so we have to figure out what the interference is and how we can restore health. And so that's kind of some of the things we want to talk about. I talked about that already. So just real quick, touching again on the dangers of the medical system. And, for most of the people who watch these videos, they kind of get this already, but I just have to say it anyway, just in case there's somebody out there who doesn't. We still have doctors giving women birth control because they have acne. Okay, to me that should be criminal, and they should go to jail for that because they're harming women, and they act like it's no big deal, and they're trained that it's not a big deal. But when you're giving something to a young girl that could affect the fertility for the rest of her life, that it increase breast cancer and other types of cancer, there should be a severe moral conflict with that. But there doesn't seem to be. And a lot of times the people, I just have to say this, a lot of people just say, oh, my doctor's Christian. That doesn't matter. Okay? That doesn't matter. All of us are deceived in our culture. I guarantee you there's many areas of my life that I still have blinders on. Okay? And I just want to be humble enough to admit that. But trust me, the majority of Christian doctors are blinded by their education and the medical system. If they're still handing out toxic petrochemical drugs to people as an answer to health, they are deceived in what really brings about and restores life to the human body, which is God and his creation and his design. There is no other answer, especially for the deep issues that people are struggling with, the chronic sicknesses people are dealing with. But think about this hormone issue, the birth control, hormone replacement therapy. The biggest one right now is bioidentical, and I've done videos on that. Don't be fooled by the term bioidentical. It may or may not be natural, because bioidentical means somebody can take petroleum out of the ground, mess with it in a laboratory, make it have the same molecular structure as something in your body, put it in your body and say it's bioidentical. It has the same molecular structure as XYZ hormone in your body. Well, no, it doesn't, because God didn't design petroleum to be in your body. So we can't be fooled by some of this scientific jargon that's going on related to hormones. When women have severe issues like endometriosis, it's usually pain drugs, other drugs that affect hormones like birth control pills or surgery. There's just not a lot of options in the medical system. One thing I really have a heart for is fertility. I mentioned it earlier, and I did a video on this from the heart, just really imploring couples to wait on God's timing. And the reason I say that is because we're going into medical clinics because we're desperate to have children, and we're forcing it with in vitro and other ways to artificial insemination to make something happen that is not God's timing. And I know that might be hard for a lot of couples to hear or women to hear, but think about the way God designed the body. I mean, when you have a baby naturally, you know how many millions of sperm are competing to fertilize that egg? and only the strongest one is going to make it. And so you start doing in vitro and you start doing artificial insemination and all these different things to force this to happen, you're really taking a huge risk. And you're doing something that's contrary to God's design and contrary to God's timing. And again, I just say that from the heart, because if you're not pregnant right now and you can't get pregnant, there's a reason for it. And if you would just, and I've seen this dozens of times, where women can't get pregnant and they restore their health and they get pregnant. It happens all the time. It happens all the time because, like I said, God designed women to have children. So I just really encourage women to wait on God's timing. And sometimes God's timing is actually, it takes restoring health in the body. There are 2 chairs right there, yeah. So, yeah, so I think one of the cries in my heart in this class series in general, but specifically related to hormones, is that we would turn back to God. I mean, that's the general message, is that we would understand that we've gone astray. I mean, as a culture, generationally. So that's not putting condemnation on any one person, but that we've gone astray as a culture. We've done things that alter the flow of life, of how God designed our hormones to work and for us to bring forth children. And we have to stop running to a man-made system for answers. And so I'm not overly concerned what methods you choose that are godly, but as long as we start choosing God. I think, unfortunately, if I can just speak truthfully, I think, unfortunately, a lot of believers and Christians believe that the only way God's going to correct anything is by praying for it and getting a miracle. Now, how many people probably have not been having children are praying every single day for God to give them a child and for God to make them fertile? And what if God desperately wanted to answer that prayer with a miracle, but instead he wanted that couple to get healthier so that they could bring forth a healthy child? Because it's a huge responsibility bringing a new life into this world. And like I said, I've seen that happen with many people and many couples. So I don't care how people choose God. I'm all about prayer. I'm all about following God's creation and his design as well, and restoring health back to our bodies. But I really feel like we need to take responsibility for our health and our culture and our future generations, because we have been doing the wrong things for too long, and I don't think it's too late to start doing the right things. And a lot of people are. The system that is against human life is pretty much all the world's systems, sadly. That's why we have to separate ourselves from them. But the medical system is, most everything that happens in the medical system is contrary to God's design. The exception to that is life-saving. And I said that before, but obviously we're okay with people getting their life saved, and they're having a heart attack, and somebody's having anaphylactic shock, and somebody breaks their leg. Okay, I get all that. But the pharmaceutical drugs and the things that they're giving women are contrary to human life, especially related to hormones and hormone imbalances. I mean, I don't know who remembers it. I don't remember the name of the drug, but they were giving women drugs back in the 40s and 50s for nausea that were causing babies to be stillborn and born with deformities. Thalidomide. Okay? That's just one example. There's hundreds of examples of pharmaceutical drugs destroying human beings. And it's still the main choice we choose today for medicine. It's a man-made system that is, I say it's man-made system. It's deeper than that. It's demonic. It's designed to destroy human life. And the enemy just uses people as pawns to destroy people. I'm just going to tell you the truth. Okay? People are used as pawns to destroy people. That's why your Christian doctor can still prescribe things to you that are going to potentially harm you or your child. They know it. Just read the list of side effects. mean, if all those side effects are listed on there, you know what that means. I've said this before. That really happened to a human being. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to list it there, which means it's okay for you to go ahead and do it. So clearly, I'm not a big fan of pharmaceutical drugs. But we really have to understand this, because if we're ever going to change and we're ever going to turn back to God's original creation and design, we have to start choosing Him. The problem is it's getting harder and harder and harder to trust in God's creation and God's design because we've strayed so far. We have strayed so far from God's original creation and design that we're looking for somebody that has an answer. That's why people are always looking to a man or a woman for an answer that thinks they have something to say. Like me. I hope I say something that helps people, but I'm nobody's answer to anything. The only answer to anything is Jesus. And so He's the one we should be looking to for answers. But we want to look to a person for an answer. And we've created this system in the medical industry where doctors got this degree and spent all this money, and supposedly now they know something. One of my favorite things to say is, be careful of anyone who has a degree, because they might think they know something. Because if you know the reality of the world and walk, and especially have any awe of God, you realize that none of us really know anything. So sorry, I'm kind of getting off on a soapbox there, but I just wanted to stress those things. We got to stop looking to man. We got to stop looking to doctors, pharmaceutical drugs. We have to turn back to God. I don't care if it's prayer or nutrition or herbs or sunshine or fresh water or exercise, but let it be based on the way God designed the earth to work and your bodies to work, because that's where the long-term answers are going to be. So into now correcting hormones, like what do we do? Nutrition. It's the most important thing. It's the building blocks for life. One of my favorite analogies is God is the architect. God's an architect. He constructed all these animals and plants and trees and human beings to function a certain way. But what determines how good that architect looks is the quality of building materials you decide to provide him. I mean, you can do studies with animals and not give them certain nutrients and watch their young being born deformed. I mean, all these studies were done back in the 20s, 30s, 40s. And so we have been providing God with poor quality building materials. This is why we have health issues. This is why we have children being born with all kinds of health issues today. It's not just random. And so nutrition is really important. And so the basic building blocks for life are proteins, but it's not really proteins, it's actually the amino acids, whether those are plant-based or animal-based. Minerals. Lord God formed man out of dust of the earth, Genesis 2:7. So we have to have minerals to function. That's how God designed us. And I think it was, I don't know if Weston A. Price actually did the study, but they did a study where they fed farm animals feed that did not have any vitamin A in it, and some of the animals were born blind or with 3 legs. I mean, again, you can take nutrients away and cause deformities to happen. And so we have to have certain nutrients for the body to work. B vitamins are crucially important, vitamin C. So minerals, vitamins, amino acids, water, of course, those are the main building blocks. Some of the foods I like to highlight are avocado, because I don't think it's a mystery, or that's not the word, it's a coincidence that it takes approximately 9 months for an avocado to ripen and it looks like a baby in a womb. And we know how important healthy fats are for us. Nuts and seeds are really good for hormones. Why? Because that's the reproductive part of the plant. That's how God designed plants to reproduce themselves, is through seeds and nuts. And so those are beneficial for that. Healthy fats, olives, olive oil, avocado. Fish, unfortunately today we have to be careful of. That's been a thing I've really been focused on a lot lately for personal reasons, because of the mercury level we found in some of our own family. But fish is a big issue right now. And I actually posted a blog from, what's the group called? The Environmental Working Group, or I can't remember what the group is. It's some a website that lists fish and what the highest mercury content and the lowest mercury content. And it's really interesting. The heavy metal testing I do now through Quicksilver, they actually tell people do not eat fish within 72 hours of taking this test, which shows you that eating fish one time can affect your mercury levels in your body that much that you can't even eat it 72 hours before taking the test. So the mercury issue in fish really is a big deal. So be careful on the fish, but pine pollen's another thing that is a reproductive part of the plant. They found has a lot of hormonal components to it. DHEA, which is the joy hormone. Men and women can both benefit from pine pollen. Again, it's the reproductive part of the plant. In general, though, we need to eat whole foods based on God's design, getting away from processed foods, white flour, white sugar. Again, it was Weston A. Price way back in the 30s that started doing these studies showing people eating white flour, eating white sugar, started to create degeneration in the human body. Saw it happen with animals, seen it happen with people. He predicted basically what we're going through today, a culture of epidemic sickness and disease from eating foods devoid of nutrition. And ancient cultures, they gave the best, you know who they gave the best foods to? They gave the best foods to pregnant women because they valued life. Okay, we get pregnant and we have cravings and we just want to eat chocolate all day. And I don't think that's normal, but it's normal in our culture today. And you wouldn't even have that option if you lived any other time in human history in the last 7,000 years. It's only in the last 150 years that we've created this culture of not really caring what we put in our bodies or how we steward our bodies. And it's affecting our future generations. And so that's our heart. My wife and I, we're far from doing it perfectly, and we're still trying to figure out how to do it all. But we have our hearts set on doing everything we can to bring forth healthy children and not seeing the health issues we're seeing in most of our children today. And it's really a battle. It's really a battle. Fermented foods. So I'm not a big fan of dairy in general because it's heavy, it's congesting, it's mucus forming. You know, I've talked a lot about dairy. And the other thing I really caution people on is kombucha, because kombucha is a wild fermentation that feeds yeast and fungus in the body. A lot of people have issues with kombucha, so I really don't recommend people do kombucha or fermented dairy unless they're in really, really good health, which is really rare today. So what I would really encourage instead would be like kimchi, sauerkraut, fermented vegetables, probiotics, water kefir, coconut kefir. All those things are going to be better choices, in my opinion. Dangers. The big three that I tell everybody to work on getting away from is grains, sugar, and dairy. And that means even the healthy versions of them. And, you know, we're probably not going to be perfect on this. That's okay. But the reason is we have to understand why we have to get away from grain, sugar, and dairy. It's partially because of what we've done to the food supply, but it's more because of what's going on in our bodies. Not being able to digest and process and break down these foods. So when you put, we're kind of going to get back to the hormone thing here. When you put foods in your body that you can't digest or process, and you have a damaged gut lining or what they call leaky gut, things leak out into your bloodstream and they start to mimic hormones. And your body starts, the receptors in your body starts to get taken over and your own hormones stop working right. That's why I had a gal in my office one time who was on antidepressants and suffering for depressions for 20 years. And when she stopped eating grains in 3 days, she felt so good she stopped her medication and she's never had a problem since. This shows you how impactful foods, when they don't get digested properly in your body and they're getting out into your bloodstream, how they affect the ability of your hormones to work, your neurotransmitters to work. I mean, why are people going gluten-free and grain-free and sugar-free and corn-free and soy-free? It's out of necessity, but because it's messing up our bodies and our hormones and our neurotransmitters and the way God designed the body to work. Because the body is not working the way God designed the body to work because of the damage in our bodies and in our guts. So that's why I really encourage people to get away from grain, sugar, and dairy, even the healthy versions of them. And then if you want to try to add them back in, you know, intelligently later and see how your body does, your body will tell you. It really will. I think the best ones to choose are gluten-free grains, although it's not about gluten. It's not a gluten issue, it's a grain issue because it's a complex starch molecule that has to be broken down into the body that creates a lot of acidic waste in the body, and it causes insulin to be produced, and so it stresses out the pancreas, and it just creates this cascade of difficulty with digestion when we eat too many complex starches and carbs. And so healthier versions would be like the ancient seed grains, which that's what body ecology diet encourages, like amaranth, quinoa, millet, buckwheat, those kind of things are better choices. But some people are really intolerant to grains and can't even handle those. So just for the sake of understanding healthy hormones, if you want to feel better, have more energy, get out of depression, whatever, try eliminating those foods. You'll be shocked at how quickly you could feel different just in the fact that those undigested things aren't circulating through your body anymore. And then you throw on top of it, if you're not eating the right foods, I mean, it's like I said earlier, petrochemicals, pharmaceutical drugs, artificial flavors and colorings and all the MSG and all these things in our food supply, same thing. If they're leaking out into the body, getting into the bloodstream, I mean, this is why children have autism. This is why we have major, major, major issues going on. It's because these poisons aren't even being neutralized in the gut and eliminated, because God created an amazing defense system in the body. It's just broken down. It's not working. And so when chemicals get out into the body, oh my gosh, you're wrecked. I mean, there's been studies done on like, what's an extreme disease? Schizophrenia. Okay, is that an extreme illness? It's an extreme illness. You know how they used to treat people with schizophrenia? Nutrition and fasting, and they got better. There's a study one time where this guy read this research study, somehow had an influence with this, and I can't remember the exact story, but had an influence with this asylum where they had schizophrenic people, and they changed their nutrition. They started giving them vitamins and minerals, and 90% of the people fully recovered and went home to live a normal life. So schizophrenia isn't just that person's just schizophrenic, that's just who they are. No. Like, people are losing their lives, or should I say the enemy is destroying people's lives, and that person's under bondage, and because of ignorance of our society and our culture and the medical system, they stay in that bondage, sometimes to death. So it's a really big deal. Like, this nutrition thing's a really big deal, especially when it comes to hormones. So toxins. Toxins are going to affect hormones more than anything else. And so the big one that everybody's heard about is synthetic estrogens. And we know where those come from now. They come from herbicides and pesticides and fungicides and all those different sides. And plastics and meat and dairy that are filled with hormones. We really, really want to get away from those things. But it's synthetic estrogen, and women are becoming estrogen dominant. And that's what you do when you put birth control in your body. You're putting synthetic estrogen in your body. And again, that's their solution for hormone balancing. It's horrific. So synthetic estrogens are so dangerous that plants that dump chemicals into rivers and lakes and streams that have an estrogenic effect actually changes. Remember how I said God designed everything to flow and to work based off of his spoken word? A frog's a frog, a fish is a fish. Some are male, some are female, they reproduce, life is happy. Okay? Have a company spill a bunch of plastic toxic waste residue into that ecosystem, and what happens? You have no more male fish anymore. They are turned female. That happened in the Seine River in France. That's happened to frogs, where the entire population turned female, and there were no men anymore. There were no males anymore. So I don't want to talk about something controversial, but I'm just going to throw this out there. I've talked about this before. I actually did a little class, you can call it, on purity of seed. And I talked about how the enemy's goal is to destroy our seed. Okay, our RNA and our DNA is contained in our seed. And so all of our past generations, all our choices, everything we've done comes down to one sperm and one egg creating a new life. And so there's a reason, I believe, I'm just throwing this out there as a food for thought. But there's a reason that children, sometimes male children, are being born with female tendencies. Sometimes male children are born without genitalia. They even have a diagnosed disease name for it. I don't even know what it is. But we get into this whole thing about homosexuality and is it a choice? And again, I'm not going to give an opinion one way or the other, but I do know that the devil wants to destroy our seed and destroy our DNA and destroy our RNA so that there's no purity in the world anymore. And if a child is raised not understanding his sexuality because he's so emotional, he feels so, and he's got all these female tendencies, that can happen when your body's loaded with synthetic estrogens. So I'm just throwing that out there. So chemicals, I mean, we just got to clean up our world and clean up our environment in which you live in your home to the best you can. What was that story I read about? Well, gosh, there's so many stories out there, but just people getting sick from chemicals and not understanding where it came from. There was a person who was super sick and they couldn't figure out why, and then they remembered that when they were 3, 4, 5 years old, Dad used to take them out into the garage and clean car parts with gasoline. And that has an estrogenic effect on the body. So just all these chemicals in our world today are affecting people. You work in a beauty salon, all the makeup you're putting on your body, personal care products, antiperspirants, shampoos, conditioners. I mean, all these things can have chemicals in it. And it's just so weird to me. Like, our culture is normal, but if you actually really think about God and how He created everything to work, it's so far from normal. Like, what we're doing is so far from normal. Like, we get up in the morning and we have to have this shampoo and this conditioner and put this deodorant on and wear this makeup, and it's like, this is so far from God's design. And it's damaging us. And who's taking advantage of it is companies and businesses and companies who want to sell us things. And we're just like, we're caught in this, it's like the Matrix. Does anybody ever feel like we're caught in the Matrix? You guys remember that movie? All right, so the third main thing I wanted to mention related to how to restore hormone balance. Nutrition's crucial. Getting toxins out of our environment, especially synthetic estrogens. The liver. And this is something, unfortunately, I don't see a lot of people talking about related to female hormones, is the role of the liver. And if you understood the role of the liver in hormones, you'd see it means everything. Because everything cycles through the body through the blood, right? The life of all flesh is in the blood. So everything that happens through blood. And so when hormones are released, where are hormones released? All kinds of different places. We got a pituitary and a hypothalamus and a pineal gland and thyroid and adrenals and etc. These hormones are being produced, they're released into the bloodstream. They're released for a specific purpose, and they either serve that purpose or they get hijacked along the way with all these toxins in our environment. But once there's no need for that hormone anymore, it's recycled back out through the liver. And so women who are pregnant and have morning sickness or nausea have liver issues. Women who have major issues around their hormonal cycle every month, be that cramping, heavy bleeding, whatever it is, have liver issues. We talk about estrogen, progesterone issues, estrogen dominance. It's mainly a liver issue because your body would be getting all of those synthetic estrogen out of your body through your bloodstream if your liver and your detoxification pathways were working. So if you're having major issues around your hormonal cycle, your body's not recycling and eliminating hormones properly. So I just want to stress that because, again, I've read all kinds of blogs by all top health experts, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about the role of the liver related to hormone balancing. It's very real to me because of what I saw in the difference in my wife between our first and second pregnancy and the health of our first and second child. And a lot of it had to do with the liver. And so I really, really stress that because it's personal to me, and I want other women to benefit and not have all these health issues, understanding that the liver is a key component. And again, if we want to have longevity and have good lives and be free of sickness and disease, we want to know if something's off in our body. We want to know if our liver is not functioning right. And so that's an easy way for you to know when you have your monthly cycle If there's things off related to that cycle, it very likely could be the liver. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about a few specific health issues. And for all of these, I just encourage, if you want your body to work right, getting away from hormone replacement therapy, bioidenticals, birth control, pharmaceutical drugs, anything you can get rid of, the better. If you're on HRT, but when you come off of HRT, you're a complete crazy person, and you trust me, you don't want me to come off of my hormone replacement therapy or bioidenticals, that's fair. What I always encourage people to do, start doing the right things, putting things in your body to work the way God designed it to work. Then you will find that when you start to reduce that medication, you don't need it. I've seen it 100 times in women who just stop taking the medication, or they reduce the medication. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't need it. I feel great. That's the way it's supposed to work. That's what happens when you choose God, who knows your body, who knows your cells, who knows your glands and organs, and he knows how to restore life to your body, versus taking a pharmaceutical drug that's manipulated to force an action on your body to happen whether you like it or not. It's the difference between man-made things and an intelligent designer. So infertility, and I'm going to give you a few ideas of some products I've given to people for these various issues, because a lot of times I've said before, I get in trouble because I talk about these general vague concepts, but people are like, what do I take? What do I do? So I'm going to give you a few ideas of some things you can do. Again, understanding that the most important things is the food you eat every day that actually promotes life and has the building blocks in it, removing toxins and waste out of your body through cleansing and not putting synthetic estrogens and other things in our bodies, because again, that's interfering with the hormonal function of the body. And again, a main focus on the liver, that being the main organ that filters blood and filters hormones. So infertility, there's a product called Maca Harmony, and I give this to women who have issues with fertility, have struggles with not having a cycle or have an irregular cycle. I've given this to many women. Now I don't want to say caution women, but I always tell women that when you take these products, just be prepared to get pregnant, because like these things really work, right? I know that sounds silly, but like be prepared to get pregnant, because, well, maybe not you guys, okay, but I know, is that why you guys are laughing? Did I totally miss that joke? Did I miss my own joke? There has been women who are in their 40s who took things to balance their hormones, who got pregnant, who didn't think they would get pregnant. So be aware. I do often tell women, though, man, I would love for you to take a month or 2 months and really focus on your nutrition, get the right building blocks in your body, get the B vitamins and the minerals and everything in your body that it needs. Do a liver cleanse, do a 30-day liver cleanse, and then take this stuff. Because like I said, you very well might get pregnant. So the Maca Harmony is a great product. It is maca, which is a Peruvian root vegetable that's been used forever for hormone balancing. When I worked in Vegas 10 years ago at a health food store, it was hugely popular then. So it's been around for a while. The other one is healthy pituitary. Pituitary is right in the middle of your head if you go like this. But the pituitary is where all of those pregnancy hormones come from. Luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, oxytocin, like all those fun pregnancy hormones, they're stimulated by the pituitary gland. And so what stimulates the pituitary gland? I've talked about this in classes before. Sunshine in your eyes. Sun getting in your eyes, because we're governed by light. When God created the sun and moon, he said these are to rule the earth. Like we're governed by light. Well, God is light, it makes sense. But we're governed by the light going up and going down. So you can get in the sun, you can take an herbal product to stimulate pituitary function, and you'll start producing those pregnancy hormones. So that's a cool thing if you want to get pregnant. And then, of course, a progesterone cream. This is Proferia. A lot of women are progesterone deficient. Yes, we're progesterone deficient. I think it's actually more of that we're estrogen dominant. And so our progesterone is suppressed. And the number one reason women miscarry is a lack of progesterone. So again, if women are miscarrying over and over and over again, this isn't God's heart. This isn't his will. It's his will is life. And so there's a reason. There's a reason that something's not working right. So the progesterone cream can be very beneficial for infertility as well. And it's just good to take things because progesterone is needed to build that lining when you do get pregnant. That's why the progesterone comes every month. And so it's good to keep those levels up while you're pregnant, at least through the first trimester. But I really encourage people to continue to take it. And there is a product, do I have that too? Yeah, Progesteronic by Wish Garden that's actually designed to increase progesterone levels naturally. It's an herbal product that increases progesterone naturally. The herb most well known for that is Vitex, which is chase tree berry. So those are some things for infertility that absolutely work. I also have a big note here in capital letters that says, check the man, your spouse, because there's a lot of women that can't get pregnant. We assume it's the woman. A lot of men are really unhealthy. Men have low sperm count. They have low motility. Their swimmers aren't working. That's the joke, right? So it's a real thing. It's a real thing. So how do you know unless you go to the doctor and get tested? Like, we don't always know. So men need to get healthy too. And men do have hormones. They just don't talk about them. But it is important to check the man too. And the biggest thing that I think wrecks health in general, and especially men's sperm count and motility, is sugar and alcohol. So getting processed sugar and alcohol out of the diet. Pine pollen is great for men. Deer antler, anything that increases testosterone. Tongkat Ali is an herb that increases testosterone. There's a male product called Libido Lift that has a blend of herbs that increase testosterone. All those things are going to help with sperm count and motility. Okay, so while you're pregnant, minerals, crucial, 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 crucial. I like the Inner Vitality plant minerals, the big gallon jug. Magnesium, I will stress, is the most important mineral for every human being, but especially for pregnant women. It's known to do over 400 functions in the body. That's just what we know. It's really interesting. Jen, who's my wife, who's pregnant now, we did the heavy metals test on her, but it also checked her mineral levels, and she was super low in magnesium. And she was doing okay in her pregnancy, but she was really, really exhausted. And so she started doing magnesium baths at night. She's a totally new person. Totally new person. She was so low in magnesium. And Angel, who I used to work with, when she was pregnant, she said, you got to tell every woman about the magnesium oil. Every pregnant woman needs to know about magnesium oil. It just makes you feel better. It gives you more energy and life force. We're chronically deficient in it. It helps with sleep. It helps with muscle cramping. It also helps with pain and soreness and discomfort of maybe carrying a baby and the back pain. The best source of magnesium is magnesium chloride. That's how it comes out of the earth, is magnesium chloride. The only other form I usually recommend is gluconate. Anything that's a gluconate is a plant-based form. But the magnesium chloride, you can do foot soaks in it. You can do a foot bath. That's the same thing. A full bath, I meant. Like you can get the bath crystals and do a bath in it. So the magnesium's super crucial for anybody, but again, especially for pregnancy. Zinc is really important. And I have here, I'll just touch on this real quick. Postpartum. Okay, postpartum, there's two main things known to cause postpartum depression. And again, if we don't understand how the human body works, we don't understand God and his creation and his design, we just think that that's your lot in life. Like, it's certainly not. The two main things implicated in postpartum depression is a lack of zinc. Do you know that, Rachel? Oh, I thought you were shaking your head. A lack of zinc and a lack of, they say fish oil, so you could say essential fatty acids. I've heard it's more of DHA, which is an algae, which is what the fish eat. So DHA, which is something the body somewhat naturally produces in our body, but you can get it through taking a DHA oil or a good fish oil. or an algae product like astaxanthin and some of these other algae that are out there. So DHA deficiency and zinc deficiency. And so you can protect yourself. You can take these things during your pregnancy because they're good for your pregnancy, and then you don't have to have the postpartum depression. And let's say you've had 3 children and it's happened every time. Well, it doesn't have to happen the 4th time. So we have to learn these things. So back to while you're pregnant. Iron, crucially important. Many reasons. One is a lot of women are anemic. And just so you know, anemia does not mean iron deficiency. Do you guys know that? Anemia is the lack of oxygen getting to the blood cells. Iron is one reason we're anemic, but there's another type of anemia called pernicious anemia where we're vitamin B12 deficient. And so, yes, women are deficient in iron and B12, but again, pregnancy will highlight your weaknesses because God's going to rob, I don't know what else to say. I always say rob Peter to pay Paul, but the body's going to pull from mom to make a baby. And usually mom's going to be the one that suffers. So again, it reveals your weaknesses. If you're deficient in iron, if you have liver issues, if you're deficient in B vitamins, you're going to feel the effects of that when you're pregnant. Again, it's not a bad thing if you know what's going on and you know how to restore those things in the body so that it works right. But you can take iron, you can take B12. The other issue that's going on, especially in the first trimester, is your body's increasing massively the blood volume. And so to create more blood volume, you need more red blood cells, you need more iron, you need more B vitamins, and it's more stress on your liver. Why do all women have issues with morning sickness and nausea in the first trimester? It's for those reasons. Again, it's not just that's the way it is. I mean, it is so ingrained in our minds and in our culture that morning sickness and nausea is regular. Doctors and your friends will tell you that there's something wrong with your pregnancy if you don't have morning sickness or nausea. I've heard that from people. Like, oh, you should be having some morning sickness. Are you okay? And I tell that story about my wife many times. That second pregnancy, no morning sickness, no nausea. She felt great the whole pregnancy because we worked on these things. And so iron and anemia is a big deal. There's a product I give all women when they're pregnant, and that's the Healthy Blood by Garden of Life. The great thing about it is it's pretty darn cheap. It's like 12, 13 bucks or something. It's got plant-based iron, and it has B12, so it covers both types of anemia. And you need to build blood volume, and you need to keep your iron levels up, and you need to do it in a natural way. You don't want to get iron from a doctor who gives you elemental iron that causes constipation and all those things. Quality really matters. If you want to understand why iron from a doctor causes constipation, I'll make it pretty simple for you. The way God designed the earth is for things to grow up through the ground, through the earth, and for us to eat them. That's Genesis 1:29. He gave us all seed-bearing plants, and that'll be your food. The iron that your doctor wants to give you is like taking a nail, putting it in water, let it sit a couple days, and you're going to drink the water. Now I got my iron. You see the difference? So things have to come through food because that's God's design. And that's why our medical industry is so weird. All right, so what else do pregnant women need? B vitamins, crucially important. All women should be taking a B complex. I use do I have it here? Yes, the liposomal methyl B complex. Doesn't that sound fancy? But liposomal is under the tongue. It's a fat soluble right into the bloodstream, right into the nervous system. You've heard all about, you got to get folate, you got to get folate. Or they say folic acid, which is actually synthetic. You don't need folic acid, you need folate. But you need B vitamins or you can have problems with the birth. That's why they stress so much the folate. But it's not just folate. You need other B vitamins too for muscle function, nerve function, to create that baby, to have healthy cells. For liver function and cleansing, you need B vitamins. So B vitamins would be another crucially important thing for women. And I will just say, it is unfortunate that we have to take so many supplements today, but I believe it's the reality. Again, it's because we've fallen so far from living off of the earth God created for us, we have to put these things back in the body for it to work right. So I'm saying, praise God, we have these things, but I would love to get to a level of healing and restoration where we wouldn't have to rely on these things, but I don't know if and when that's going to happen. So for now, we got to be putting the best things in our body, especially for our future generations. Herbs are good. I have a formula called Balance. I don't have it here, but red raspberry, stinging nettle, some of your basic safe pregnancy herbs are good to take during pregnancy. And then I put that if morning sickness or nausea or a problem, take care of your liver. And I think it's a good idea for women to support their liver anyway while they're pregnant. I have a gentle liver cleanse tea that has safe herbs for pregnant women. It's just milk thistle and yellow dock and some basic safe herbs. You can do B vitamins. There's a product called Protandim that actually helped my wife a lot when she was pregnant because it increased glutathione in her body and helped with a little bit of a liver detox. And so there's things out there you can do to support your liver while you're pregnant. PCOS and fibroids. I'm going to have to go through this fairly quick because I'm already been an hour. PCOS and fibroids. Estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance. PCOS and fibroids. So it's congestion in the system and estrogen dominance. So the best thing you can do for estrogen dominance is called DIM. So it's I don't know if I can pronounce this, diindolylmethane, but it's called DIM, and it comes from cruciferous vegetables. And I love this stuff because what it does is it pulls synthetic estrogens out of the body. So it's one of the best things for helping women with all kinds of symptoms of estrogen dominance, which, by the way, that's menopause symptoms, is estrogen dominance. So many of these symptoms women are dealing with is because of the synthetic estrogens, and DIM is the only thing that I know of, I'm sure there's other things, that pulls out that synthetic estrogen. And it comes from cruciferous vegetables, actually. It's an extract from cruciferous vegetables. So it's called DIM. And there's capsules, there's liquid. This is, again, is the under the tongue one. The other cool thing about DIM is I just learned that it's one of the best things for help to eliminate mold and fungus out of the body. And I actually have these mold detox protocols now that include DIM, which is pretty interesting. So it's kind of got a double effect. It's going to help with hormone balancing, pulling synthetic estrogens out. The reason it helps pull synthetic estrogens out, some synthetic estrogens have hijacked your receptors in your body and they're kind of messing up your hormones, but it'll go in there and it'll pull out those synthetics and allow the proper estrogens to, it's like a lock and key to fit back into those estrogen receptor sites. And so you start feeling normal again. And so for PCOS and fibroids, the main organs you need to work on is liver and lymph. So there's a congestion issue. So this is kind of a double whammy. There's a congestion issue, and if you want to look at the deeper root of it, it's actually a congestion issue. Because if the liver and the lymph were cleaning out the body properly, you wouldn't be able to have an estrogen dominant situation in your system unless you were just like drinking herbicides all day. And some people like are in that industry, like they're spraying herbicides all day and it messes people up. I had a guy who had multiple sclerosis and he sprayed pesticides and chemicals for 15 years. Now, do we know 100% sure that's what causes MS? No, but I'd say it's a pretty safe bet. So what was I saying? Oh, so liver and lymph cleansing is crucial for PCOS and fibroids because it's a buildup of abnormal cell growth, which comes from estrogen dominance, but you won't have the estrogen dominance if the liver and the lymph and everything is working properly. So cleansing is crucial. Cleansing the liver, cleansing the lymph, going on a juice fast, just going on a fruit and vegetable fast for a while, something to cleanse the body, and then you can take DIM, you can take a progesterone cream, you can take different things to bring the estrogen back into balance, and that's going to get rid of the PCOS and fibroids. You almost always see, at least every gal I've seen with PCOS has a real issue with sugar. And they even prescribe metformin, which is a diabetes medication for women with PCOS. Well, we have to stop eating sugar. Now, part of that problem is the hormonal imbalance, the liver's not working right, the body's craving the wrong things. So there's some nutrition adjustments that might need to be made, but mainly we've got to get away from the sugar. If we're ever going to heal our liver and we're going to heal PCOS and fibroids, we've got to get away from sugar. And that means all processed sugar, but all quote-unquote natural sugars too. Endometriosis is a really unfortunate situation where it's an extreme acidosis of the tissues. The body's so acidic that it's actually eating away the lining inside the body, and the tissues it's like reattaching to the wrong parts of the body. It's an extreme acidosis condition where the body's almost like eroding or corroding on the inside. And the only answer they have for it is surgery. And so we actually have a product called Endometrio. Oh, I didn't grab that one. We have one called Endometrio Assist by Wish Garden. Got to eat an alkaline diet. You got to switch to greens and fruits and veggies and get away from heavy acid foods. That's the most important thing you can do for endometriosis. And you got to cleanse. You got to cleanse the lymph and the kidneys, and of course the liver as well. But the lymph and the kidneys are the fluid systems of the body. And those acids, where they build up more than any other place, is in the lymph. And that lymph drains out through the kidneys. So if you have extreme acidosis issue, you really got to cleanse your lymph. And then DIM would be another one that would help with the estrogen metabolism. Okay, so menstrual cycle issues. Real quick, not having a cycle. Maca Harmony, healthy pituitary, progesterone cream, the same things for infertility. Will help start a cycle. Vitamin E, by the way, is called the fertility vitamin. Where does vitamin E come from? Nuts and seeds. Yeah, there you go, olive oil. Nuts and seeds primarily. Yes. So again, the reproductive part of the plant. Isn't it interesting that they call that the fertility vitamin? It comes from nuts and seeds, which is the reproductive part of the plant. God's a cool designer. So that was for no cycle. Heavy flow, progesterone cream, and the progesteronic. So get the progesterone levels balanced. The other thing you can do is herbs that tighten, like astringent herbs. I will actually give women a kidney formula I have called Kidney Strengthener that has herbs that tighten and tone tissues in the body to kind of constrict and tighten everything up a little bit to stop the bleeding. But the main thing that will help is increasing progesterone levels. Can we save it to the end? Yeah. Okay. Painful cramps, big deal with cycles for a lot of women. Minerals. I have a bio-CMP formula, stands for calcium, magnesium, potassium. Women take 4 when the cramps start, and they take 2 every hour, and it'll either completely eliminate the cramps or make them significantly less to the point where they don't. I mean, I have so many women who take 2, 4, 6 ibuprofen, Tylenol, Advil because their cramping is so bad. So minerals can immediately relieve those. You can take magnesium oil, this same magnesium oil, rub it directly on the area where the ovaries are. You can just do magnesium on a regular basis as a preventative. I've seen so many women who their cycle gets so much better when we do some of these simple things. There is a product called Cramp Relief, which is herbs like cramp bark. Actually helps with menstrual cramps. But it's called Cramp Relief by Wish Garden. And then Evening Primrose Oil is another one that can help with the cramping. Emotions, all the emotional issues that a lot of women have, depression. Cleansing the liver, I will highlight that again. They used to call it melancholy, 1700s, 1800s, they called it melancholy, and they always focused on the liver. Because again, hormones, and the hormones not getting cycled through in a congested liver. Something the Lord's been highlighting to me so much is how much our physical body truly does affect our mind and our emotions, and therefore ultimately it affects our spiritual walk. We have to get our bodies in line with how God designed us. And why wouldn't we want to do that if we're made in His image? So we really got to understand that the body affects the emotions and how we feel and how we think and how we interact with people. And so cleansing the liver is huge for the emotional issues. Nutrient-wise, B vitamins will be crucially helpful. And the minerals again, mainly magnesium and zinc. And then we do have a formula called Happy Juice that really works. It's called Happy Juice. So that's another funny one. Menopause. It's an estrogen dominance issue. Real quick, what happens is women are estrogen dominant, they just don't know it. They go through menopause. The body stops producing as much progesterone because you don't need it, because progesterone is progestation. You're not going to have a baby. So the body reduces the production of progesterone. Now the estrogen dominance is causing all these symptoms. The hot flashes, the night sweats. It's more than the liver can handle. So when you're sweating at night and you're having hot flashes, it's actually really a liver issue. And progesterone was in the body balancing out the estrogen. Now the progesterone gone, the estrogen's dominant, the liver's trying to handle it, you're getting symptoms. So you can work on the liver, again, as a key thing to help with menopause, or you can take the herbs. You can take a progesterone cream. Do you need that much progesterone? No, you're not going to have a baby. But it'll help immediately with the symptoms because it'll start to bring that estrogen back into balance a little bit. But you don't need to take that long term. But a lot of women do take progesterone cream to help with their menopausal symptoms. Another thing you can do is the DIM. Help get those synthetic estrogens out of your body. That's what DIM will do. And then, let's see, Replenish is a product I've been using for years that has black cohosh and different herbs that kind of mimic estrogen in the body. And so again, that's just temporary. That's just relief of symptoms. It's not getting to the deeper root of it. And then Hot Flash is a product by Wish Garden. It's called Hot Flash. And so those things can help. For liver health in general, eating a liver-friendly diet is really important. So eating fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, lean meats, staying away from heavy fats, too many animal fats, overdoing fried foods, fatty foods. Sugars and grains are really hard on the liver. But overdoing the fats is the hardest thing on the liver. And people who have liver issues know they can't handle heavy, fatty foods. A good liver formula, so milk thistle, of course, is known for the liver, but Dr. Christopher has a liver and gallbladder formula. Dr. Morse, I like his herbs. He's got liver gallbladder formulas. I don't know if I have them up here. I don't think I do. Femmate. I'm going to show you this real quick. I don't know how long this will be around. This I get from a Chinese doctor in Canada, so as long as he keeps providing it. But Femmate, is that funny? Femmate is a female hormone balancing formula. And you know what's in it? It's almost all liver herbs. Because the Chinese have understood for 2,000 years that women's hormonal issues are tied to the liver. And so this is a formula called Femmate, and it does have curcuma in it, which is from turmeric, right? And bupleurum, which is the #1 herb used in Chinese medicine for liver issues. But it also has Vitex, which is the trace G berry that helps with progesterone. So it's a nice blend of liver herbs and hormone balancing herbs. And it's bitter. Bitters are amazing for the liver. So I really like that formula. I've given that to a lot of women. Let's see, what else is good for the liver? Oh, bitters. Okay, so I mentioned bitters. Do I have any other bitters up there? I don't think so. Bitters. When you spray something bitter on your tongue, it stimulates the vagus nerve, which causes bile and digestive enzymes to be secreted, and it causes the liver and the gallbladder to kind of flush and to purge. And so digestive bitters are a great way to help with digestion, but also to help cleanse the liver. So those are just some general things that help with liver health, and of course enemas and cleansing. So doing liver cleanses and doing enemas and things that help remove waste from the body. The majority of liver waste dumps out through the bowels. Most liver waste dumps out through the bowels. There are some things that the liver neutralizes and turns into ammonia and purges out through the kidneys, but most of the toxins in the liver are purged out through the bowels. So doing bowel cleanses and things like that will help. So I just went through all that, and I didn't even talk about hair loss, hair, skin, and nails, fatigue, weight, adrenal issues, thyroid issues. So I don't know what you guys were expecting today, so you can ask questions if we didn't cover it, because I'm already over an hour. But a couple of things that I use for thyroid, because a lot of women have thyroid issues, and you don't need the pharmaceutical drug. It's just going to cause your thyroid to continue to weaken and deteriorate and to atrophy, because it's telling your thyroid you don't need to function anymore. So Thyroid Thrive by Ridgecrest I've been using for years, and selenium is the main mineral that the thyroid needs. I'd also put magnesium in there, and iodine, which I like the Exodine by Cedar Bear, or modiphyllin, which is the concentrated seaweed, 40-to-1 seaweed extract called modiphyllin. For adrenals, adaptogenic tonic herbs. So astragalus, ginseng. There's a ton of these Chinese herbs that are great for balancing the adrenals. The Great Adapter is a good formula by Jing Herbs for that. Deer antler, vitamin C, and B vitamins. These are all things crucial to adrenal function. I did a class on adrenals. You guys can watch those classes. Top 5 overall products. I did this just for kicks and giggles. Just in having worked with women for years, what do I hear the most raves about? Like, oh my gosh, that's like the best thing ever. So I have a formula called Endocrine Balance by Dr. Morse. I've only been using this for about a year, but woman after woman after woman. And it's always different, and that's what's fun about it. Sometimes women go, oh my gosh, I'm getting out of bed so much easier, or my cycle's so much better, or my brain fog cleared up, or whatever it is. But so many women have noticed benefit from the endocrine balance. And so I love that formula, Endocrine Balance by Dr. Morse. The second one is any of the maca products. This is another one. Since we've started using these products, I mean, people love them. Again, the maca Harmony for infertility, not having a cycle, irregular cycle. Maca Life is actually to help go through menopause and menopausal related symptoms is the Maca Life. And then they have one called Maca Pause, which is beyond menopause. And they've actually studied it and proven it to help with these things: hormone balance, improved outlook on life, so better mood, energy levels, libido, and vaginal dryness. That's a big one for women postmenopausal, and reducing hot flashes, and it increases bone density, which is another big concern for women postmenopause. So I really like the NHI maca products. That's my number 2. My number 3 is B vitamins. So I like the methyl B complex under the tongue. It's the best. But you can also get B vitamins from Garden of Life, Synergy Company, any good company. We really should be taking B vitamins because it does so many things for nerves and muscles and hair and skin and nails. I mean, women take, what's that mineral? Biotin. Take biotin just to see it help their hair, skin, and nails. And the B12 deficiency seems to be like an epidemic for anemia, and there's just so many reasons we need B vitamins. The fourth one is deer antler. I know that one sounds kind of funny, but deer antler is one of those things that helps with everything. It helps repair the body at the cellular level, repair muscles and nerves and tissues. I'll never forget this one gal. Her name was Mary. She was so funny because I was giving her deer antler. I don't remember why I was giving her deer antler, but it was not for what she came in being really funny about. So I don't know what I gave it to her for, but my wife, I gave her deer antler when she hurt her back, and it actually helped regenerate her spine. But this gal, Mary, she came back after 2 weeks or something. No, it was probably longer. It's probably like a month. And she goes, oh my gosh, Vaughn, you wouldn't believe, like, my hair and my skin and my nails, you see how fast my nails are growing, and my hair is like thicker, and like she was going on and on and on. And it was from the deer antler. And that's not even why I gave it to her. So I just thought that was funny. But that is one of the things they talk about with deer antler, how it helps with everything, hair, skin, nails. I mainly give it to people for like strength, stamina, endurance, adrenal function, energy, those kind of things. But deer antler is one of those things that's just overall good for the entire hormonal system, the endocrine system. The fifth thing is kind of vague, but it's minerals, just because I think it's such a hugely important topic. And so you can take, I got these like multi-mins that are just mineral tablets, all plant-based stuff. If I was to give you minerals in order of importance, I would say magnesium is number 1 important for sure. I would say selenium and zinc are right up there. Potassium. All your electrolytes are really important, which is magnesium, potassium, sodium, and calcium, right? How do you know what minerals you need? You don't. Blood work's certainly not accurate. I'll stress this last point. Blood work is great for finding things that are really, really wrong in your body. It's really bad at finding weaknesses in your body or things you need to improve on, because the body will pull from all kinds of resources and areas and tissues and bones and joints and everywhere else to get the right minerals in the bloodstream, because the life of all flesh is in the blood, and every nutrient has to be in the blood for healthy blood. So when you have anemia, you've had problems for a long time. And that's why when you have all kinds of health issues and you go to the doctor and the doctor said, your blood looks great, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you. And you're like, no, I'm totally sick. And he goes, well, why don't you go see a psychiatrist? Okay, their systems are not designed properly to find imbalances in people, only to find major issues and diseases, which is what they want so they can put a name on it so they can give you a drug. Okay, it's how the whole system's designed. So what's a better way to find out what's going on with your hair is a hair mineral analysis, or the heavy metal testing I'm doing now actually does check mineral levels. That's how we found out Jen was super low in magnesium. I found out what minerals I was low in. Our daughter, Naomi, we found out what she was low in, and so we're gonna work on those because those minerals are crucial for energy, ATP production, muscle function, nerve function, detox. If you don't have the right minerals, you can't have energy in your body. There are certain minerals that communicate between cells to produce ATP, which is energy. That's why certain minerals bring people back to life. You don't have certain minerals in your body can't detox. There's certain minerals that have to be inside the cell and some have to be outside the cell. For example, copper. You take the right copper, it gets the right nutrients inside the cell, all the toxins can start to be released from the cells, but without it, you can't do it. Like, there's so much we don't know about God's amazing design of the human body, and we're barely scratching the surface of it. But the minerals is a big deal. And so I stress just taking a general mineral supplement. I like the big plant, Inner Vitality, Gallon Minerals. It's plant-based minerals. But really, it's good for people to find out if they need magnesium or zinc or potassium or copper, because it can make a huge difference in your health. There's actually a copper supplement out there that people are taking with Lyme's and autism and seeing it reversed by taking like one mineral. And it's not because just they were deficient in copper. It's the cascade of events that happen when you put the right nutrients in the body that unlocks the body and being able to produce energy, or finally to detox, or that opens up the liver to open up its detoxification pathways. And so it's pretty complex. And again, we've kind of been forced to learn all this stuff because we're all so unhealthy. But hey, it is what it is. We're discovering God through this. So God's design of women is beautiful. I do believe that the enemy, gosh, I'll just say it, he hates women, doesn't he? Yep. He hates life. And so he wants you to not care about how you treat your body or what you treat in your body, because he knows that that seed, if he can get that seed, he can affect future generations, and he can delay happening to him what's going to happen to him ultimately. Just going to say it that way. So yeah, this is your design. You're designed to have healthy hormones, to have joy, not to be sad, not to be depressed, not to be infertile. You know, you're amazingly designed to have children and to have joy, and for your hormones to be working right. And there are things we can do to restore that naturally. And of course, Jesus can do things much faster than nutrition can with miracles. So I continue to what's the word? Well, we continue to strive after that. But God has a solution far superior than any man-made chemical or drug or anything some guy in a white lab coat comes up with. Okay, he's already given it to us. We just haven't chosen it. So it's like we're rediscovering what God gave us from the beginning. I call it we're taking back our birthright. You know, we're reclaiming our inheritance, whatever you want to call it, but we need to get it back because we're being destroyed. So that's it. Amen. Sorry that went long. That was like questions. Yes.
Two questions. Number one, cesarean section, uterine scarring, with the PCOS type, endometriosis type stuff that you mentioned in here. Could you, like the fibroid issues or buildup of scar tissue in the uterus?
Yeah, but you're talking specifically from surgery.
From surgery.
So that would be a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah, so for scar tissue in general, the only thing I know that works great at that is the Nepronol, the systemic enzymes, the protein-eating enzymes. They're proteolytic enzymes. So when the body forms scar tissue, it's fibrin, which is a protein, And protein-eating enzymes will clean that stuff up. So I've seen people with lumps of scar tissue, and I give them Nepronol for their heart issue, and in a month they're like, wow, that scar tissue all went away. Like, what's that all about? So it does work to clean that stuff up.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if, because that's scar tissue, so it's not technically connected to like a blood supply. So I don't know how much that's going to just clean up, like just juicing and fasting. It might. But I would say something more that targets the fibrin,
Okay.
which is the Nepronol.
The second question is with premature puberty for young girls, like
Yes.
9, 10, 11. How much of this stuff can you give to, like, the product that gets rid of
The
extra
DIM.
estrogen?
I would
DIM.
probably do the
Yeah.
DIM.
Okay.
If a girl's starting to go through puberty prematurely, it's because of the hormones, and it's got to be the synthetic estrogen.
Okay.
And that's it.
So it's safe for.
Oh yeah, it's safe.
Okay.
Oh, totally. Yep. Yep. So you could research what other things pull out synthetic estrogens. I've heard lemon peel it does, which is in a lot of Chinese medicine formulas.
Okay.
And I've also heard that oats do. I mean, so you can research that. But I know that DIM is very specific
Okay.
to that.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. And then liver.
Yep.
Working on the liver,
Liver friendly.
right? Because the liver needs to get rid of all that stuff. Like you could be eating hormone-filled meat and dairy, and that's not great. But as long as your liver's working really good, it might not affect you.
Okay.
Because God designed us to get junk out that shouldn't be out. It's just that, like I said, that gets backed up, all the stuff starts affecting us.
Okay.
So liver would be key to that as well.
So the
Yes.
could the kids do the liver herbs?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Which was the herbs for your guy from Canada? It's good for everything.
It's called Femmate.
Okay.
It's a liquid. Yeah. She got it. All right, cool. Anything else? Yes.
If you have symptoms of low progesterone, how do you know if it's that or the estrogen dump?
Oh my gosh. So
Way to go.
for everybody who's here, I totally forgot. I gave you guys a women's survey to fill out. If you fill out those questions on that survey, based on your answers, it'll tell you mainly is it an adrenal issue, a thyroid issue, a low progesterone issue, a low estrogen issue, or a low testosterone issue. So if everybody wants to fill out that survey,
So if
just
you're leaning towards low progesterone, it's probably that versus, like, I'm just trying to, from what you've said today,
Yeah.
the difference between dominant estrogen or actually low.
oh yeah, it's hard to know exactly unless you do like a saliva test and have that sent into like a lab somewhere.
So which would be the safest route to go, with a progesterone cream or doing the DIM or doing both?
Probably both, because it's well, let's just say it wouldn't hurt to do both. But the symptoms can actually maybe tell you, because the symptoms are different for low progesterone than for estrogen dominance. I don't know what all those are off the top of my head, but that's part of what that survey's for. But I would say to probably do both. Let's say this, there's a much more likely situation that you're estrogen dominant than you're progesterone deficient. That's more likely. But, you know, if you're in the age of fertility with even considering having more children, I would definitely consider the progesterone issue because it's so important. So, any other questions? Y'all can fill out that survey if you want, just for kicks and giggles. Okay?